All right, the next topic that I want to cover is something called the model schema, which basically describes how a model is structured, how the tables are laid out and organized, and how they relate to one another. And there are two very common types of schemas that we're going to talk about here, called star and snowflake schemas. So first up, imagine a model that looks like this. This is known as a star schema. It's the simplest, most common type of data model, and it's characterized by a single fact table, in this case sales data, surrounded by related dimension or lookup tables, in this case calendar, product, territory, and customer. And it's called a star schema because when you lay out or organize your tables in this way, it kind of resembles the shape of a star. Now, it's important to note that you don't have to organize your tables exactly like this to have a star schema. In fact, the model that we've configured for AdventureWorks is in fact a star schema, even though we're organizing our lookup tables above our fact table. We'll talk about why we organized it that way in just a bit, but what's important to note is that our model does in fact have all of the characteristics of a classic star schema. Now imagine something that looks like this. You have that same familiar sales data table, but now we have three different kind of related dimension or lookup tables. We've got a product lookup, a product subcategory lookup, and a product category lookup. And if you look closely, you may notice that we don't have the fields that we need to connect sales data to each of these lookups individually, like we would with a classic star schema. So what we'll need to create here is something known as a snowflake schema. This is basically an extension of a star, and it includes relationships between dimension tables and related subdimension tables. So you can think of it almost like a star schema that branches off or creates a chain of relationships between different levels of lookup tables. So it's a little bit tricky to wrap your head around at first, but let's talk about the exact relationships that we could create here based on the four tables that we're looking at. So we'd start just like we normally would, right? We've got product key in our sales data table that can map to product key in our product lookup table. But note that the product lookup table also contains a foreign key of its own called product subcategory key. And because we have a separate dimension or lookup table that's at the subcategory level, that means that we can define a relationship between those two lookup tables. And by the same logic, that product subcategory table has a foreign key called product category key. And we have another lookup table called product categories lookup that's at the category level. So that means we can create a relationship between those two dimension tables based on that product category key field. So this represents that chain of relationships that I described, where we're connecting dimension tables to related subdimension tables. So that's our quick summary of star and snowflake schemas. Next up, you're going to jump into an assignment and actually practice applying these concepts yourself.